Hi, my name is Yuri Dzuvan. I'm a conversational backend developer at Master of Code Global and Glia. And in this video, I will share the results of my investigation of whether it's technically possible to create an AI chatbot for writing fiction. I will share all the prompts, the proposed conversation flow, and an example of texts created using this approach. Large language models work by predicting the next token or word and generating texts, especially non-technical, which allow for or even expect variability, seems to be their direct application. Also, LLMs are considered quite effective at brainstorming and generating variations. So, how feasible is it to create a chatbot which would allow a user to write a novel with little to moderate human involvement? This was the subject of my research, and let's have a look at my results. I'm not a novel writer. Speaking about fiction, I never wrote anything bigger than school essays. Also, English is not my native language, and I'm a technical specialist, so writing fiction is not my strong side, at least now. So the first thing I did is I researched how people are using AI to write fiction. There are quite many articles and videos on this topic, but the main source of information for me was the YouTube channel of Jason Hamilton. The channel is called The Nerdy Novelist. I highly recommend to watch his videos if you would like to dive deeper into this topic and try writing a novel yourself. So, the main approach and the prompts were taken from James's examples. My input was the estimate of whether and how this could be wrapped into a chatbot, plus some additional ideas which I will talk about soon. So, the approach suggested by James is called the fractal technique. The idea is that we come up with a story idea by generating multiple topics in the given genre if we did not have our own idea initially. And after that, we iteratively detail the topic using special prompts. This way, we generate synopsis, then a list of chapters or outline, then so-called action bits for each chapter, and finally we generate prose. Additionally, we can generate illustrations and book cover. It's worth noting that this approach, but with different prompts, could be adapted for writing not only fiction, but non-fiction materials such as articles, presentations, courses, etc. So I took these prompts and thought how this could work in a chatbot interface. And my first draft vision was the following. So the bot, which has some persona, avatar, writing style, etc., would greet the user and briefly but concisely explain its purpose and set the expectation about how the interaction with the user will happen. Then it would ask the user to describe their topic, noting that the user may take time to think about it if needed. But if the user doesn't have some specific existing idea, then the bot would help them to generate one. And here, we would start from choosing a genre like romance, thriller, fantasy, horror, etc. Once the user chooses a genre, we are ready to use the first prompt for topic generation, which looks like this. So, give me 10 high-concept pitches for a best-selling story in the given genre, with a unique twist, intriguing characters, and gripping emotional stakes. And the LLM would generate 10 possible story topics. In this POC, I was using ChatGPT with GPT-4 model, but this approach could work with LLMs of our other providers, for example Claude 2.0 from Anthropic or others. And here's an example of 10 thriller stories, and we can easily generate 10 more. So after generating story topics, the bot would ask the user to choose one story, to generate more, to rephrase one of the story descriptions, or to provide their own story idea. Once the user chooses the story idea, we can proceed with the second prompt, which would generate the so-called synopsis. And the prompt would look like, given the premise and story information from provided below, give me a highly detailed synopsis for the thriller story in the traditional three-act structure. Each act should be clearly labeled and should build toward the ending I've described. and it would generate a synopsis. Here's how it looks like. The next step would be to ask the user to moderate it, approve, or suggest their corrections. But here I would like also to describe an additional approach which could be used to generate better content, and which James might not be highlighting explicitly, though possibly might be using in some form. What I mean is that we can use LLM to suggest improvements and then rephrase the generated material, synopsis, or any other text. So this approach is used in multi-tenant agent frameworks like Autogen from Microsoft. The idea is that we will instruct LLM to act as a professional literature critic, review the text, and write their comments or corrections. After this, we can ask the LLM in our original thread, where it acts as writer, to rewrite its output, taking into account the comments received from the critic. So this could be done either under the hood, and the user would be presented with a final version, which was reviewed by the critic and rewritten by the writer, or we could generate 2-3 variations of the text and ask the user to choose the one they like most. Once the user approves the synopsis, the bot would proceed with generating chapter list using the following prompt. Using the following synopsis, create a detailed summary of the story, fleshing out additional details and breaking it into parts using the save the cat bits, and so on. And here are the chapters we got. At this step, we would repeat the moderation step. Ask the user to approve the chapter list or use our critic agent to suggest improvements or a combination of the two. Once we have an approved list of chapters, it's time to generate so-called story bits or action bits. Story bits in fiction writing refer to individual events, decisions, or discoveries that move the story forward. They are the building blocks of a narrative. And the prompt for generating bits is the following. So take the following chapter summary and generate a list of 15, let's say, highly detailed action bits for a script with additional story information and so on. And here we provide the one of the chapters. And here are the bits we've got. Then comes the last level, generating prose based on the action bits. And here's the prompt. So write 600 words of a chapter using the following details. And here we have genre, tone, point of view, key characters, style, etc. And at the end we add the story bits which need to be detailed. By the way, to make our prose better, we could ask the model to write in the style of some author which is popular in that genre and whose works are available in the public domain that is not protected by copyright. We could also generate deeper, richer descriptions for our characters, places, etc., and apply other tricks to make the story more captivating. But for the sake of this POC, those additional flows were omitted. So this way we get the final text. Because of the context window, we can't generate prose for the whole novel or even a whole chapter in one prompt. Claude has a bigger context window than GPT-4 and can be used for generating whole chapters. But even Claude would need prompts for individual chapters. And in the case of ChatGPT, we will repeat the above-mentioned prompts to generate action bits for each chapter and then prose for each several bits. According to my vision, users would be asked to moderate the texts to the level of chapters or maybe action bits, while the rest of ClickOps would be done asynchronously by the bot, with possible involvement of that critic agent. This is because I would see this bot as an entertaining service, while editing 50,000 of words and maybe several times sounds like work. Finally, we would like to create a book cover for our story. GPT-4 allows doing that using its DALL-E 3 integration, and the prompt would look like this. Develop a book cover for a novel in the genre, let's say romance, with a title like, and then we provide the title and the story description. In order to test this approach, I held a workshop at my IT company where we collectively tried a book using AI in 1 hour, And here are some of the results of that workshop. So, after presenting the general idea, we voted for the genre, and fantasy was the one which got more votes. Then story ideas were generated, and we again voted for the best one. We chose the story which sounds quite similar to The Lord of the Rings. It was not the most original and bright idea I would think of, but given the time limitations and for the purpose of live presentation, it was considered to be acceptable. Then we generated Synopsis. Then we briefly touched this idea of using an AI critic to improve the text. And then we generated a chapter list, action bits for one chapter, and some prose. I will share the links to all OpenAI chats which were created during that workshop under this video. Here's the book cover we got in DALL-E 3. Text is incorrect and also there are too many characters. This story has only 4 of them, but this could be improved. Finally, some text was used to generate an audio sample using 11 Labs IO, and let's listen to it.
The kingdom of Eldoria, once a beacon of light and prosperity, lay under a pall of gloom. Its vibrant streets, now muted, bore the weight of a collective despair. Flags fluttered at half-mast, while the people's faces, etched with worry and sorrow, mirrored the somber sky above.
From what we've seen so far, one might think the creation of an AI chatbot for semi-automatic novel writing is feasible. However, if we read the text more attentively, we might be disappointed. From my modest experience, the text generated without professional moderation, or with very little human moderation, suffered from rather low coherence, sometimes tended to repeat the same action in several parts, and were rather predictive and reminded popular stories in that genre. We could try making a service similar to Sudowrite or Novel Crafter, specialized AI tools for writers, but chatbot interface doesn't seem to be appropriate for this. Also, this contradicts to the idea of a simple tool which would write a story with little user's intervention, as I saw it. However, there is a space for improvement of the approach presented in this video, and also LLMs are progressing so quickly that I won't be surprised if we see novel writing bots in the quite near future. What do you think about it? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. I hope that this video was useful for you, and thanks for watching and see you in the next one.